Check out sanctifiedsupplycompany.com. Be sure to use the link in the video description below so they'll know that I sent you. It's where you can pick up our Kingdom and Context merchandise, some of the shirts you see me wearing during my broadcasts. They also have a wide variety of other awesome merchandise, even including coffee. So this is a good family. They have good quality products at a very, very good price. Check them out today, sanctifiedsupplycompany.com. Hello and welcome. This is Kingdom and Context. I'm Sean. I want to thank you for joining us here tonight. We're going to have Josh from FEB, Founded Earth Brothers. He's going to come on to talk to us about an update on the creation standard, as well as his understanding of evidences of the firmament, of different concepts of creation, as well as maybe his take on the final experiment. So I want to thank everyone that's here tonight in the live chat. Moderators, as always, thank you so much for being here tonight and keeping things civil. Just as a reminder, because of the nature of the final experiment topic, it attracts a lot of people that just try to troll and falsely accuse and slander and bring a whole bunch of vile venom to the live chat. So mute them for 24 hours. Don't ban them. Maybe they'll get a better attitude and come back again next time. So without further ado, we'll bring on our brother Josh. What's going on, brother? Welcome.
Thanks for having me back, Sean. It's been crazy what all has happened since the last time we were here. I think it seems like yesterday, but it was before we started the creation standard journey in full swing. And now, ironically, we're at a point where we are using a class textbook for moon phases. Got one right here.
Nice.
So just in time, somebody's like, hey, where can I get a good copy of Enoch? Because I'm quoting a lot of it with this lesson. And I'm like, so in our actual slides, we have the first contextual study guide with links and everything, so the people can access it and hopefully learn more about the biblical earth model, because since we started this journey, the Father has blessed me not only with just great students and great parents, but an overabundance of proof that his words are true and his words are final. They're the final say in this realm, and it's provably so. It's easy to prove, and it's something that's just blowing my mind, because I knew it was easy to prove. But when we start going through as a truther family with people around the world doing this, the Father just has blessed it. And so I look forward to sharing a lot of interesting, mind-blowing things that we have picked up. I've just put in some highlights with life science and earth science, but it's a lot. But yeah, thanks for having us come back to talk about it, because I haven't had a chance to even sit down with our own viewers and just give an update. So this is good. I can actually share this with them, and they'll understand what's been going on, because it's been a lot. It's the hardest work I've ever done in my life. It's I took off a little bit too much, but the Father has blessed me with a great passion to do this. And so 4 different preps is more than I've ever done. I think the most I've ever done is 3 preps at one time. And so having 4 has made it hard, but we're building it this year as we go. And I think next year is going to be a lot better, a lot smoother. And we've figured out what works and what doesn't. So yeah, it's been quite the blessing, but at the same time in the world, things are just going crazy all at once, and lots of deceptions out there, but we are still finding proof in the midst of all the lying signs, wonders, and deceptions, for sure.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. So you guys have you completed your first semester of the creation standard just this last 6 months? And so what were some of the highlights that you think from that?
The highlights, my goodness, the highlights is the testimonies for me. When I hear a parent say, my daughter is now in the word and cannot put it down, like they are glued to it. Like, to me, that's a win that's priceless. You know, it's worth all of it just for that one child who's now doing that. And we, as parents with our busy lives, we sometimes think, well, I'll start to lay a foundation at another point in their lives, maybe when they're a little bit older, when they're ready. But these children, they are taking in things from their parents and seeing the wisdom from the parents passed on, and then the things we share to them being passed on. It's something that it's priceless. It really is. And so it's been a blessing to witness the chain reaction from parents that are teaching their children truth from the start, because our Father, I believe, is creating a generation of truth soldier children and individuals. I say children, I mean like newborn believers who are starting with a firm foundation, something I didn't have. I didn't have biblical cosmology as a foundation. I was in Babylon. We all were. We were exposed to all the Babylonian nonsense, the sun god model nonsense. And so starting your children out with that foundation is really good, and it's powerful, and they look forward to it. It's the most excited I've ever had students. Like when we have a break, they're not like, yes, they're bummed. Like they're like, man, we have a break. This is awful. Like, what are we going to do? We're not going to have our fun hangouts where we learn about the biblical earth and intelligent design, and then we play review games together. So they all get to chime in. They're talking, they're communicating, they're getting fellowship with other like-minded people. So it's something else. It's something I did not expect to be as much of a blessing as it is. I knew it was going to be work, but the blessing is outweighing the work aspect for sure.
That's awesome. That's awesome, really. So you do a few weeks of learning modules, and then you have like a review, kind of like
Yeah.
test.
Yeah. We do review every day. So whatever we learn, whatever our target is that day, we have a lesson, and I'm trying to shorten them. I was going way too long. I was packing like 40 minutes worth of lecture stuff into each lesson, and I'm trying to figure out what works best. And so now I'm trying to get it down to about what I do in the regular classroom, which is like 20 minutes. But now it's like stuff we're super passionate about, so we're just force feeding them with a fire hose. So I've had to like tone it down a little. And so I started adding. I'm trying my best to keep the lectures about 20 minutes with real solid stuff, and then you give them a chance to review it all together live. We play little games online that are interactive, so they can join in with each other and compete with each other as a team, and do different things that are like problem solving related. So it's fun, and it's fun for me. I actually play the games now. I've gotten to where I play all the time, so I get more practice, and so getting my record up there, it's a lot of fun. And
That's awesome.
yeah, and then so there's usually a weekly challenge as well. We throw in a weekly challenge with that as well, something for them to do outside of that, because they love to be hands on and to actually do stuff. If you don't give them enough work, they're like, what are we supposed to do now? Like they're the best students I've ever had and the best parents I've ever had. Like I've witnessed things that I don't think are humanly possible in my own house. Like I couldn't imagine. We have children ages, about to be born to all the way to like 26. And I couldn't imagine getting all the children on the couch, sitting down, doing a lesson together as a family. And there are families that can do just that,
That's
peacefully
awesome.
sitting down, 14-year-old, 10-year-old, 3-year-old, sometimes 1-year-old, like, and they'll sit down and watch and learn together. Like it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And it's a testament to what our Father's doing with his people, because this doesn't happen in your public school setting. I couldn't get a population of my public school people and do this. Like when we had the pandemic and everything shut down, I had one student join my Zoom lessons, just one, and we've had times where there's been over 30, in just one class. And I've had classes all throughout the day for different time zones, 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 7 o'clock. So far, we have yet to have a class where no one showed up. Like even our 9 o'clock class for the late evening, we have people joining from Hawaii, Australia, places like that, so that those people will join. And there's always been a class with people in it. It's amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you don't really have an average age for the student, do you? It's
I
just wide mix.
Yeah, I tried at first. I was thinking like keeping it, because it's geared towards our earth science. Earth Foundation is geared toward or based off of a sixth grade earth science standard, because that's where they start hammering them hard with the globe, the Coriolis, the moon phases, and all of those things. They hit them early on in elementary too. And so this is a good class for the elementary age kids too. My daughter's in the class right now. She's 7. And so we have it to where I can try to modify it, or the parents can try to modify it to make it work for the younger students. But typically when they're around the age group of like 6th grade, 5th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, it works better for them. But you can still modify it to fit the needs of many people. And some people are older and they're like, hey, I need this basic. Give me the
Yeah.
basics. So we've got a wide variety of ages 4 all the way to like 80. Quite a wide variety. People wanting to learn the Father's truth. And I've learned more this year since I stepped out from behind the scripted education, where you're scripted, like you're literally given a script. They call it standards, but what it is here's your script, stick to it for the rest of your education until you retire. They don't change, they don't update. New information comes in, they stay the same. We still have information from the 1800s that's been debunked in our standards today in the state of Georgia where I'm at. And
I
so
believe
they're
it.
just outdated. But when we're doing this with the Father's guidance, it's not outdated anymore. The Father's shown me that I've been teaching some lies, even though I didn't know I was, with things like DNA, his design, things that he made, things that I used to think we knew about, we don't. And so it's been an eye opener for me. I've had to say, guys, I've lied about this in the past for years. And I didn't think I was. I thought that I figured it out with the biblical earth model, and that I wasn't lying to my kids, and I still was lying. We are so far in Babylon. We got to come all the way out. And so I think that's what this is a big part of, is coming out of that all the way. And it's something we need to do while it's legal, because it's only, if you look at a world map of where it's actually legal, it's a small portion. There's like legal without restrictions. It's just like one place on the map. And I can pull that up later, but it's crazy how much they're persecuting learning from your own house with your own children.
It reminds me of Kent Hovind back in the 90s. He used to give, speeches about trying to debunk evolution. He said, look, I don't want to force Christian creationism in the textbooks. I just want to get the lies out of the textbooks.
Yeah.
And so it still would put the educators in a weird position, because then it means they got to go to those textbooks and try to figure out, well, what's accurate information now,
Yeah.
especially because supposedly with science, it's always changing. And that's, you're like, or you're always just realizing you had speculations and theories that were wrong previously. This truth doesn't change. It's just your conclusions have been changing. So that's pretty awesome. I mean, even in a small way, I guess that's also what we're realizing, with studying the Father's creation, right?
Yeah.
Which is not the fictional man-made creation that has to come up with new mathematical formulas to try to make it work all the time, or just completely get rid of Newtonian gravitational mathematics and adopt Einsteinian relativity, right?
Dark matter.
Not even in dark matter, right? Not even just trying to better understand, where we are and how we, how we're experiencing what God has created for us to be existing in. And I think it's a beautiful, like Stephen Curtis Chapman saying, this to me, this is the great adventure.
Yeah.
Right. We're all in it. So tell us a little bit, brother. I guess, recently there was a group of men and a lady that all went down to Antarctica, and they got excited about looking at the sun go circles around their head. And some people that believed in a biblical cosmology didn't know if that was going to be the reality. I didn't know if that was going to be the reality that they were going to observe. And then other people have seen that, and they've made them change course. And then just the premise of it, just the discussion itself for the last year has caused some people to actually start testing on a firmament model, which is the biblical creation model, if an observation like that could be true. And lo and behold, they're actually being able to model it and demonstrate. And so that's interesting. Now, it may not be to everyone's liking at this point, but like that's the point of experimentation, right? They're still modeling. So have you heard about the final experiment, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I heard about it actually from your show. You were talking to Will, and I spiritually, discernment wise, and I don't like talking bad about anybody, but I had a dark feeling about this whole operation. Like something was up. I didn't know what. I had no clue. It was my first time hearing about it. And then I've watched what's happened since. And the darkness, it's been like a dark cloud. People are losing their minds before the dust is even settled. And my thing is, I know beyond 100% certainty, with certainty, that there is a firmament up above us. That didn't go away in Antarctica. They didn't find curvature in Antarctica. They made one observation. Was it the real sun? Maybe. I don't know. The Father created a great light, put it in the firmament to give light on the earth, and that's what it's going to do. And you can model that with a firmament model. You can literally take a glass or take a fish tank, any type of like tank of water, and get down below, look up at the surface of the water, take a light source and, move it around, see what happens, then move it to the bottom of the tank, and you can see the reflection of it inverted up on the top. There's lots of different things you can do with the firmament model with barriers. Nobody's been doing that. We've been too overly confident because the proofs have just poured in. It's like flatness, check. We got that over and over and over and over and over. I mean, line of sight signals from England to Australia. We don't need much more. Like, we've got a lot. Planes not tipping the nose down. Footage of stars when planes are flying, proving the planes aren't going downward. The stars aren't rising like they should. Things like that, like, it's just, we're getting bored. We're like, okay, we're dominating here. And I think people got too prideful and too arrogant. And then when they saw one thing that they didn't expect, because it was odd the way they set it up, it's like, let's not let them have any footage of this, even though there's thousands of footage, up north of this same phenomenon. Let's give them some fake footage and then let them have fun. I mean, like, it's really, I don't know, it's weird that only now is this ever happening for the first time in history. And you try to find out who was the first guy to ever discover the 24-hour sun. No documentation. I can't find anything about who the first guy was that went, yep, it's there. Like I was told Christopher Columbus was the one that proved the globe when I was in school. I didn't realize he never even circumnavigated, like
Yeah.
it's crazy stuff that I was taught. That's when we do our circumnavigation unit and circumpolar navigation unit. That was an eye opener for me this year. I didn't realize they were logging over 60,000 miles trying to go around Antarctica. Like things that they were doing. And then all of a sudden, oh, nope, here's the continent. It's 11,000 miles, ignore the 3-year journey that they all went on to try and find a continent. Like,
Yeah. So what you're saying is the official mainstream narrative is that it's only 11,000 miles to circumnavigate the continent of Antarctica if it was
yeah,
on a heliocentric globular ball Earth. But previously, like was it Captain Cook, right, that tried to
yeah, Captain Cook.
circumnavigate it, and it ended up taking him. He logged 60,000 miles
Yeah.
nautical miles and not 11,000, which is really weird.
Hmm.
Um, to me, that's one of the experiments that I would love for biblical cosmologists to be able to do is to be able to charter a ship, stick along the coastline, and then film the entire journey. I don't know how fast you'd have to go to circumnavigate 11,000 miles, possibly 2 weeks, maybe. But
Yeah.
basically, take just stay along the coastline so you can film the coastline in your camera the whole time and just watch it. If you're heading west, you're going to watch the coastline slope to the left continually at some point, right?
Yeah.
If you're heading east, you should watch that coastline slope to the right
Yeah.
continually until you circumnavigate what they tell us the Antarctic continent is. So that's an experiment that would definitely it's not going to prove the shape of the Earth, but it's going to prove the size of Antarctica.
Yeah.
And I think that'd be an interesting concept to do because there is that discrepancy in history with accomplished naval explorers who are
Yeah.
part of the military that say, "Hey, this was 60,000 miles. It wasn't 11,000 miles."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, the British Challenger too, they came in after Captain Cook and did 72,000 miles. And Captain Cook, what I found out from one of my students, I didn't learn this myself. One of my students did research on this because we had a research project about it. They said his purpose for going wasn't to explore, it was to witness Venus transit the sun.
oh wow.
Like that's amazing. And then there was the secret journey to find the secret Southland, Southern Australis or something. I forget the name of the land they were trying to find. And so like they were going out there doing things, knowing about the stars and the lights in the sky, where they're at, where you can go, how you can get to this certain place to view Venus transit the sun. Like way before they had the whirling space pair in a vacuum flying 500,000 miles per hour. They were making these observations. So incredible stuff. And I'm telling you, Sean, there's some stuff I found today, even today, before I was compiling stuff to bring on here, and I found something that I was like, only makes sense on the biblical earth. It's the only way.
Is that what you got loaded
Yeah,
up here?
this is it. I'm telling you, crazy stuff. And a lot of your people who believe in the word and are sincere about the word, put it to the test. Like it's something that is provably true. Your own bodies are proof of biblical creation, prophetic stuff in your very genes, your genetic, your chromosomes, your DNA, all this stuff. It's amazing. And I want to start out with the life science, and then we're going to move into the earth science stuff. But with our life science, this is something I learned brand new this year. Don't know how this isn't like front page news, but it has to do with being grafted in to Israel. Because most of you know the tree that our father chose for this analogy is the olive tree. And Paul even talks about that, us being grafted into that olive tree, the wild olive tree, being grafted in to the well-nourished olive tree. And it just seems like, okay, they know about olive trees. There was olive trees back then. Maybe he was just giving an example of the tree that he saw right then, but these were spirit inspired people talking about things that weren't just in the New Testament. They're also in the Old Testament as well. But essentially, just to give you a little biology lesson here, you guys have 46 chromosomes in your cells. In each of your cells, every one except your reproductive cells. Your reproductive cells have 23 chromosomes because you're making, when the seed comes together with the egg, it makes 46. So half and half mom, half dad. And our father designed that in a way that's mind boggling. I mean, you'd think you're coming from half guy, half girl, you'd be half guy, half girl, but he designed things to come together in a way that makes you unique. No one ever in history has had your combination of genetics, like ever. You're a unique creation that's never been and never will be, even if they clone you. But essentially, with the grafting in aspect, and now that you know that, with plants, there's something you can do different. Like I can't take a different person. I mean, I guess we kind of can with transplants. Putting a person's liver into somebody's body, you can do that. They have to be have the very, exact same type of blood and everything. With plants, they have to be of the same kind. You can't graft in plants that are vastly different. This is where it gets powerful. Because as I'm preparing a lesson and I'm talking about being, plants grafting, or thinking about all these things with science and reproduction, it was revealed to me. I don't think I thought of this on my own, was the passages where they're talking about the olive tree. And Paul is talking about right here, us being like the wild olive tree grafted in among them. And he says, and with them partaketh of the root and the fatness of the olive tree. And if you know anything about grafting, it's not a natural process. You need to have an expert gardener. I couldn't go out and start grafting because I've never done it before. I'd probably mess up. It takes an expert gardener, someone who knows about the trees and has been a gardener for a while. And if you do that for a while, the trees have to be of the same kind. Well, this is really cool. The olive tree, just like you guys, has 46 chromosomes. Our Father could have chosen 73,000 other trees for this. He chose the olive tree, and it has 46 chromosomes. You cannot make this up. This is in the Word for a reason. This is our Father showing us He's the creator of life. He made you. He knows how many chromosomes that tree had before chromosomes were discovered allegedly in the 1800s. He knew. How powerful is that? And not only that, this is what I think is cool. Green olives and black olives grow on the same tree. I didn't know that. I just thought there's a green olive tree and a black olive tree, but they grow on the same tree. They're just like color coded to let you know when they're ready. When he designed the DNA of this tree and this plant on day 3 of creation, he was like, you know what? I'm going to make it color coded so they don't have to guess and go around filling each olive. It's going to turn a certain color when it's ready. Same with apples, blackberries, like oranges come out pre-sliced in a package, like really cool stuff our creator did that we take for granted. But when you focus on intelligent design, you start seeing these things and it's intentional. And I think that's probably why the lady, when she saw the Messiah after the resurrection, was thinking he was a gardener. Some grafting in about to take place. And what's really powerful about this too, you think about us being looked at as grafted into an olive tree. Where's the Most High's feet going to touch down when it's harvest time? Mount of Olives. Where was the Messiah talking to the people about the end time stuff? The Mount of Olives. So many things showing us our Father's handiwork.
That's awesome.
In His Word, in design. The temple taking 46 years to build. The Messiah was talking about His body, and they were like, hey, the temple took 46 years to build. 46 chromosomes, 46 years. Not random. It was an olive leaf that was brought to Noah. Got that backwards. To Noah after the flood. Olive oil was used to brighten the lamps, the light in the temple. Olive oil. So many cool things there. I just wanted to share because I know you guys will eat this up. This to me, I was emotional. I just cried when I saw this. I was like, what? Like, I'm trying to prepare a lesson and I can't get through this. This is so powerful. This stuff is beautiful. And there's so many more things with the olive tree I could talk about. The 2 witnesses, the anointed ones up there, the 2 anointed ones, olive branches. That's what they're referred to as. Imagine that. So much we miss. So much, even in Revelation, the 2 olive trees. Powerful stuff. But like the Father has His version, the world has their version. There's another creature out there that has 46 chromosomes, and it's a beast. You have a choice. And I think that's what this shows us here. You've got a choice. 46 chromosomes isn't just the olive tree. There's something else. And also, this is something, too, I haven't shared this with anybody yet. Your rib cage kind of looks like tree branches growing around. They protect your heart. And there's 10 in the upper northern part, 2 that are separated in the southern part. Reminds me of those tribes. Separated. Prophetically, it's like in your ribs. Like it was built into creation. Like it's stuff you don't think about.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So just really cool stuff you can share with people that are like, I don't know about the Bible. It's not really a science book. Yes, it is. And actually, I don't want to say yes, it is. It's more than a science book. No science book could be that old and do things like that. So it's been around way longer than we knew about chromosomes, because you can't say the Illuminati wrote the Bible now, because they didn't exist when this stuff was written. And if they did, they didn't know about the chromosomes. And so that's life science. Earth science is where things started taking a turn for the best, when we started looking at things like rainbows. And I'm just using common sense, trying to think, what are the ingredients for a rainbow? Does it match the globe? Does it match the biblical Earth model? And as we're constructing lessons, thinking about how typically when you make one indoors, what do you need? You need a light source to represent the sun. You need some sort of barrier. You need water. You need some sort of mirror. You usually need things that seem to match the biblical Earth model, especially when you're trying to make a curved rainbow. You usually need a curved barrier. If you want to make a flat rainbow, you can get some sort of prism and do that, refract the light, make a flat rainbow. Probably see those a lot of times in your house if you have those fancy windows of all the different shapes. But the shape of the rainbow is usually indicative of the shape of the container that it's passing through, the barrier. And so as I'm thinking about that molten looking glass aspect of the firmament and rainbows and waters and lights, I started thinking, if rainbows had anything to do with what's up above us, they're going to get flatter as you go south, most likely, if there's any relation there. And so just went to Google and started going, how tall are rainbows in Alaska, rainbows in Canada? I just started compiling pictures. I was going crazy doing this. And as I'm doing that, I started finding anomalies that match the biblical Earth model. Things that shouldn't happen on the globe. They should be exactly the same size up north as they are down south. They're not. Time and time again, they get shorter and shorter as you go south. I mean, I'm not even being biased. I'm just compiling pictures, the average picture. And the one in Australia, that's the southernmost part of Australia. If you go to the northernmost part, they're actually taller in the northern parts of Australia as well. Australia is pretty large. And so I found that extremely fascinating. The shortest rainbow I have ever seen is in Antarctica. Really, really cool. And so lots of unique things about our firmament. We can't measure it. The Bible tells us that. Jeremiah 31, thus saith Yahuwah, if heaven above can be measured and the foundations of the earth searched out beneath, I will cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done. Now, with a globe model, they've got these measurements. There's usually a lot of 666s in there, but they've got the measurements. They know what's below us. They know how far you can go. They've only gone 7 miles or so down, but they know what's down there. It's molten core. Magnetic magma, which doesn't exist in any lab. You can't have anything superheated, keep its magnetism. And so those heavens, our Father clothes them with blackness, like sackcloth, it says here in Isaiah. That's why when you go up above that dense air and that neon gas, that blue air, you see blackness during the daytime. It's like a one-way see-through mirror. And it's like that for a reason. If we could just look right up there and see it like the ceiling in a big cathedral, it'd be different, you know. But he knows how to model his creation, how to make it to do the things that it does. And that black covering, when it's night and when there's lightning sprites, you can see it. And this is straight out of the book of Enoch. You can read it yourself right here. And it talks about a phenomenon that he saw, one that I thought was science fiction. And I'm going to show you how this proves there's a barrier up above us. Simple. It's very, very simple. And this phenomenon known as lightning sprites, we've talked about it a lot in the past. And the footage of it that was one of a kind was taken by Nova, which shows waves moving across the firmament. Really cool footage. We've got that, a playlist in our firmament playlist. You can look at it. But the footage, of course, was deleted. But there's photos of this. There's worldly measurements. There's worldly understandings of it. And they tell us, even with worldly measurements and estimates, these things are billions of volts of electricity. Plasma events that happen up above us. Plasma events. Things many miles up, above 60 miles, anywhere above that. I don't know how high they go, but they're pretty high up, pretty large. If let's just say they were 60 miles up, that means they're at least 60 to 100 miles wide. They dwarf Mount Everest. Mount Everest would look like a stone. If you threw Mount Everest up there, it would look like a little pebble. These things are powerful. They're massive, but they're fast. They were only captured in the late 80s, I believe, on camera for the first time, because they're really fast It would be like trying to take a picture of a camera flash from somebody else's camera. They're real quick and they're gone. And so you need to be highly trained to do this, or just be filming a video and you might be able to slow it down. But these happen above the clouds. You can see the clouds that hang out about 2.5 miles. And above that, way above that, is these lightning sprites. And like I said, they are a plasma event. And you can replicate this in a closed system using a plasma ball lamp. These things were huge when I was a young child. Like, everybody had these things. Plasma ball lamps were so cool, and they're still cool. But be careful. They put off a lot of energy. Don't put them near electronics. I almost broke my microphone doing that, trying to do a demonstration. These things are powerful. You can take a light bulb, the energy efficient bulbs, put it near it, and they will light up. Like, they put off some energy. Even though they're covered with a glass insulative barrier, they still put off energy, and you can interact with it by touching it. When you touch the top, it makes a lightning bolt. Enoch, remember that passage in Enoch says some of the stars rise up and become lightning. They're interfering with this barrier, just like someone touching the plasma ball lamp. They are responsible for the lightning that blows up trees. This stuff is powerful. And when you look at lightning sprites in their photos, they look a lot like the plasma ball lamps in color. So I don't doubt they're plasma events. Problem is, a plasma ball lamp only works when you have a barrier. You take the barrier off, not even a little bit. Nothing spectacular whatsoever. You have to have the barrier to make this phenomenon in a lab. You have to have a barrier to make this phenomenon above us. It's not the ionosphere. You can't replicate this with any gas bubble surrounding it. It has to be that glass barrier. And so that has been proven time and time again. You can see there's a video, King of Random. I didn't even know the guy passed away. I did this video and everybody's like, oh my goodness, rest in peace. But this guy, before he passed away, did something to help prove these things don't work without a barrier. He smashed it instantly. Even though it's getting power, he proves it's getting power. They don't work. And so lightning sprites, really, really cool. One of those things you can replicate. Go ahead.
Real quick on the plasma issue. It's fact, it seems to be it's not well spoken of. It's not commonly spoken of in science that plasma is kind of like integral into the fabric of reality. Because there's, because it lends to an electric universe, which people who support, a gravitational based model, even an Einsteinian one, they don't want to accept an electrical model of creation because it would just disrupt their grants, right? It would disrupt a lot of their money sources. But basically, there was a guy in 1981, he published a book, I think it was called The Cosmic Plasma. And his name was Hans Alvin, and he won the Nobel Peace Prize in physics. And he actually talked about that, how the world is like, 95% plasma as far as it's the fabric of energy and electricity and electromagnetism. And his book was ignored by the entire physics and astrophysics community.
Wow.
Because even though he already won the physics Nobel Peace Prize, because they were just like, they couldn't accept it. They didn't want to enter it into their equations, into their thought process. And so, I wouldn't doubt it that the sprites are absolutely just plasma shooting off.
And Nikola Tesla, who everybody knows, he seemed to know more about the reality than a lot of the other so-called brilliant geniuses. He invented the plasma ball lamp. I didn't know that. It's kind of like a Tesla coil type of thing, but they say he invented it. And I heard that in a video and I looked it up and I was like, oh my goodness, he did. I had no clue what I was playing with. I thought this was just some gadget, but I'm like, wow, this is something else. Proof of the firmament, and it was an invention of Nikola Tesla. Really, really cool stuff. And the things regarding the firmament get biblical, and the people hiding the firmament, that's their sole purpose. There's certain organizations, that's their entire purpose. When we were growing up being force-fed movies, when I was in school, the one movie they let us watch was Apollo 13, and we hardly ever had movie days. And Apollo 13 was one of them. They brought it in and we watched it. I was emotionally vested in that journey. At that point, even somebody who wasn't alive when those missions were going on, I was invested. I didn't know Apollo was a sun god. I didn't know 11 of the 12 people that went there were in the same secret society. I didn't know any of these things. I just knew the movie was good. It seemed real. They almost died. So that's how I knew it was real, because they almost died. If it was staged, they would have all just been perfect, So I was hooked on that stuff way back when. But when you start getting into the truth of things, you start seeing the dark side of these corporations that name every mission they do after a false god. Every one of them, pretty much. I mean, it's without exception. From the very beginning, their first operation was named after Mercury, the one who guides souls to the underworld, not the one who's flying up above. No, the one that's bringing people down to Sheol. Like that was their deity of choice, was Mercury, and they had an upside down cross in their patch they had to wear. If you're on that mission, you got to wear that thing, kind of like little Elon with his little upside down cross. But most of you guys know, I'm not going to read this whole verse. Wormwood talked about in Revelation as a star burning, as it were, a lamp that's falling into the rivers. And whether or not you believe that's literal, it's up to you. But I was talking about all this stuff, and I decided to look into what is wormwood. What is that plant? What is it about that plant that's unique? And I found out, of course, it's really bitter, obviously, but its scientific name is Artemisia absinthium. And I was like, man, that sounds familiar. Sounds like Artemis. So I looked it up. Yeah, the name comes from the Greek goddess Artemis. I'm like, wait a minute. Wormwood, scientific name is Artemis, splashing down into the water. Reminds me of NASA's newest mission, where they go up, their deity, Artemis, right there. You can't make this up. Splashing down into the waters. Like they always, oh, we got splashed down, and Artemis is the sister of Apollo. She's actually a moon god. So the first time they went to the moon, they didn't name themselves after a moon deity. They picked a sun god to go to the moon and name themselves after. And you don't call them astronauts. Every other astronaut now is just an astronaut. When you talk about those dudes, no, they were Apollo astronauts. They were sun god astronauts. It's for a reason. Sun god worship never died. It is in full swing right now in the world. And it shows you right there with Artemis. And it's not like, oh, they just made this deity up and they worship her now. Paul was dealing with people who worshiped Artemis. Most of your translations will call her Diana. But right here, when you look up that word, go click on it in Acts chapter 19, 35 through 37, Paul is having all these miracles happen. You're having converts and a spiritual awakening, just like we're having right now. People coming to truth. They're like, wow, look at this. But in their city, they had the temple of Artemis in Ephesus, right? And so the city clerk quieted the crowd here. And he says, fellow Ephesians, doesn't all the world know that the city of Ephesus is the guardian of the temple of the great Artemis and of her image, worshiping that image, which fell from heaven. Wormwood, right there. Image. That's what we named wormwood after, a deity that fell from heaven. Interesting. Therefore, since these facts are undeniable, who does that sound like? It sounds like the debunkers, the ones who are trying to debunk the biblical earth. Since these facts are undeniable, this only works on the globe. That's the way they were talking back then. These demonically charged people who were losing their job, right? They were idol makers. They're making idols and making money. People aren't worshiping their idols. That's what's happening right now. Corporations making billions of dollars. People aren't going to these places. They're not going to the news anymore. They're going to truth seekers. So they got to feed them the lies while they can to bring the people back into Babylon. Too many people are getting out. And so they're in full out damage control. And so things like the final observation were needed. That's why you don't see our observations going all around the world and all the news outlets all at the same time. Something like this, every single news outlet at the same time was like broadcasting it. How are they all linked up and getting the information? Because they're all part of the same Mockingbird media setup, and they're against the Father's truth. The entire world is. And so things like this show us that the powers that shouldn't be are behind these fake missions, honoring their deities. That's why they named it Artemis. And that's why they're going on the Orion capsule. Orion is that constellation that all those statues of Bel are modeled after. Remember the commandments telling us not to make graven images of these things in the heavens, these lights up there? That's what these statues are modeled after. They were modeling their statues and worshiping these graven images that are made after things in the heavens. Time and time again, not just once, everywhere. You can go to all these different cultures, many miles apart. They all worship the same deities. And oh, guess what? It's here in America as well. Right hand in the air, left foot forward. It's like they were doing the hokey pokey back then. And it's dark. Even their Orion logo. I found this was made. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Could you go back to that last slide? Yeah, it just reminds me of is it Austin Powers? That's a man, baby.
It is, yeah. Like, tell me which, look at the bicep on this chick. If that's wow. Same one as her twin brother right there, Satan. and Helios. Triplets right there. Yeah, it's so dark. Sometimes it's laughable, but it's not laughable. I mean, people are buying into this. You still see them wearing the logos, the triple. Look at this right here. Orion, their deity, with the 666, made by a Star Trek artist right there, working for NASA. We're paying Star Trek artists to work for NASA. And now we're going to get into some firmamental stuff, things about the firmament that I was not taught about, probably hidden for a good reason, but most of you guys know about meteors. There's meteor showers. These things, they don't have space telescopes out there scanning going, all right, here comes a meteor shower, guys. It's going to happen on this night. These things are mathematical. The Father put the lights in the sky for appointed times. That's what they're doing. Things will happen, and you'll notice sometimes at like an appointed time, you're like, wow, we're trying to figure out the calendar. Oh, look, a comet just popped up. You know, what's going on? Maybe it's trying to help get his people who are lost, like herded back in the right direction with these lights in the firmament. And the cool thing about these meteors, you never see them matching the globe model. You never see them shooting up above from below the horizon, shooting upward like they would on a globe, going 500,000 miles per hour in a spiral path. These things usually fall in straight lines. They're usually falling downwards, never upwards, not once. But something that blew my mind, and Sean, you may have heard about this. I don't know. I had never heard about this until several weeks ago, going through talking about these lights in the firmament and talking about meteors. Found out back in 1833. Yes, that's the number 33. I didn't choose that number. It was already there. But 1833 in November, they were talking about the firmament. And I had no clue. This is in the Library of Congress, and this got me doing some more digging. But in 1833, here's an account right here. They said that the firmament on high was one solid glare of fire and light. Why did they say that? Let me go back. I think I missed some details here. Because about 50,000 to 150,000 meteors fell each hour.
Wow.
Could you imagine that? 150,000 in an hour? It gets weirder. I'm telling you, it gets more firmamental. Just trust me. 150,000 an hour. And these people observing this, here's what happened. Imagine if this happened now. I mean, this is crazy. You had the Millerite movement going on where they were saying in the 1820s, hey, the world's going to end in 1843 or 1840 something. And people were like, oh my goodness, it is. And all these denominations are being formed. But what really gave everything a jump start, I think, was this event right here. Because once they saw the stars, 150,000 falling, think about the Bible, what the Bible says with stars falling. They said that the firmament on high was one solid glare of fire, not deep space. The firmament on high, as it has a height, was one solid glare of fire and light, and it looked as though every star in the sky was falling to the ground, and that they were certain the day of judgment was at hand. There were many wicked men on their knees that night, praying to the Lord and calling on others to pray for them that had never been known to bow in prayer before. Such wild confusion had never been seen in Tazewell before. So this is in Tennessee, just a few hours north of where I'm at. And I'm thinking, wow, people thought this is it. Why is that significant? Why this time period? Why is 1833 a big deal? What's been going on? And I'm not a history guy.
Why are those wicked men waiting so long?
Yeah, why are they waiting until now to pray? And the time is significant, I think. 1833 is really significant. But look at the pictures. I started finding pictures. Like not that long ago, I started looking into it after I did a lesson and included that. I go, why don't I look and see? Surely more people saw this. And lo and behold, people from everywhere had the same drawing. They were drawing a dome type of shape with these things coming from one central location with a bright star in the middle. And even people that had never met each other were doing this. I thought, that's odd. Why would they do that? Why would they all look exactly like this? Everywhere. Niagara Falls, even further north, they're still seeing it same way. And one of the astronomers, Denison Olmsted, he believed that the meteors radiated, this is his opinion based on all the people he talked to, that they radiated from a point in the constellation of Leo. So he thinks they all came from the same constellation, same area. So they're all shooting outwards. Doesn't match the globe model. The globe model, we're on a ball flying through these things. They can't radiate out from a pinpoint location like that. And these things, it looks like a big shower head spraying out, coming downward. Yeah, it's not matching globe trajectories, I don't think, just by looking at that. Do you think, Sean, that looks like we're slamming into space rocks and they're just zipping through like normal, No. That to me looks like it's raining down from above.
And oddly enough, we've never seen meteor showers happen from the surface of the Earth coming up.
Yeah.
It's always from the perspective of the viewer coming down. So
Yeah.
if you were on a spinning, rotating ball, you'd think that at some point you'd see some shooting from the ground up because it's coming towards you at an
Yeah.
angle of toward, that you're spinning towards. But never seems to happen like that. It's always directly above you coming down.
Has to be refraction, though. I mean, it has to be. Has to be refraction 100% of the time, 90, yeah, every single time. Um, there's another drawing. This right here was 1868. And I saw these going in different directions. And I thought that's weird because this guy's an astronomer painting this one. And I never heard about this meteor shower either. Just unique stuff. Everybody given the same account. It reminded me of that verse. It always comes to mind when you think about stars falling. I'm pretty sure Matthew 24 comes to mind, where he says, immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened and the moon not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the power of the heaven shall be shaken. So people, this is during a new moon. They don't see the moon right. When this happens, this is actually during a new moon. So they're like, the moon's dark. Where's the moon? Stars are falling. Oh no, you know what I mean? The tribulation of those days, there was tribulation going on. I didn't realize that. The Inquisitions, guess when they stopped? 1834. The Inquisitions, where people like me and Sean would have been butchered for keeping the Sabbath, Judaizing. We'd have been excommunicated. Like, these things were a big
I
deal, and
mean,
it going
they
on
would
for
have they would have
years.
tried.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep that handy. Yeah. I know I need to keep mine handy too. Now
Christ said, "Get a
yeah.
sword,"
Yeah.
so
Sell your cloak sell your cloak and get a sword?
yeah.
Now we know why that this stuff was going on. They were like literally killing people for keeping this resting on a certain day. It had to be the venerable day of the sun. And so that was 1834. And I feel like there was something significant there. Like, it wasn't after the tribulation. It was kind of right during that stuff going on that this happened. And there was a major shaking, awakening, division, religions, denominations. Everything was just truth was being chopped up like it is now. And so I think it's sort of a prophetic foreshadowing that things are about to get real, and it's going to happen again. But I think next time, it may be the last time when we see something like that again. Don't wait until the stars start falling down to get on your knees. We all have a chance right now to get to know the loving Creator and His firmament that's going to part like a scroll, based on two witnesses in the Word, Isaiah and John, telling us that's going to happen. It's going to part like a scroll, and that's when it's going to get real. Going to be some deceivers' final observation, sadly. But one thing I wanted to share, this is from the other day when I had Mike on. You saw that he was showing a picture or a video of a guy filming a Selenelian eclipse, an eclipse where both the sun and the moon are present, and they call it a lunar eclipse. Found out lunar comes from a deity named Luna, so I hate using the word lunar, but a moon eclipse where the moon is above the horizon and the earth is above the horizon, and the shadow sometimes can be on top of the moon. And so this is going with our moon phase lesson, where we use the book of Enoch as a textbook to give us the real math behind the moon, how it works, how it gets light, how it transfers the light to itself, all the things that it does based on its design, the way our Father programmed it, the master creator He is, programming things to do the things they do. That moon does some unique things, and so does the sun. And so one of them is that eclipse proves it's used in a way to prove the globe and say that's a globe shadow, but you can use this right here to prove that it's not, because the shadow would be on the bottom of the moon. They say, oh, the moon's refracted, and even on their Google image, when you pull it up, oh, flat earthers say this. Look up the Selenelian eclipse. You're not going to get a definition of what it is. You're going to get the flat earth debunk of what it is, unlike Wikipedia as well. Like, when it pulls it up, it's like, here's the debunk version. And they don't show you the shadow. They never show you the shadow, because the shadow is what debunks their nonsense. It's not a globe Earth passing in front of the moon between the sun. And you can easily prove that shadow is not going to jump up on top of the moon. And they're telling us, oh no, it's refracted upwards from the other side of the globe. And so you're actually having it refract all the way up to the tippy top from the other side, which means that it should be upside down, because they tell us people that are standing upside down are viewing it upside down. Why is it that when it shoots back up to the top, it's not upside down still? Then it knows how to flip back over automatically with refraction. So refraction's magical in doing that, but it can also flip things up. But that's not the truth. The truth is our Father set those lights up in the firmament. And if there's ever a shadow or anything happening with these lights, it's because they're in the firmament. They have prescribed paths. They're moving the way they're supposed to move. And even the book of Enoch tells us it's orbit. It uses the word orbit. I don't know what the original word is, but mankind has hijacked that word and used it to describe their sun god model. Provably false with many things. And even the word selenelian, found this out. Guess where that comes from? The prefix moon, and guess what? Helios. Can't have that word in enough places. Sun god model, heliocentric model, solar system named after the sun god Sol. So they didn't even back in the day give credit to the globe. They gave credit to their sun god for causing this.
Wow.
It was called the moon Helios eclipse, and now we call it the selenelian eclipse. And it kind of hides the Helios name because they've transliterated it just right to where we don't notice it. We just think it's a word, some weird word, but no, it's all pagan.
I've actually got some old paper, some old headlines about selenelions, and one's from October 5th, 2014. And the headline is a total lunar eclipse on Wednesday will be a rare selenelion. And then the next one says on 2011, December 7th, they're covering it as well, saying Saturday's lunar eclipse will be included as impossible sight.
Huh.
That's how they actually introduced the idea of the selenelion in mainstream publications when they covered it in the news. 2011,
Wow.
2014. Rare
Wow, yeah.
and impossible.
Impossible. Yeah, that was 2014 when this picture in the top right was taken of the shadow on the top of the globe. And the video that I was watching with Mike, he was showing it, and I hadn't seen the video in a couple years, but the guy's explaining it, and he's looking at both lights. He's going, so the sun's over here, and he's trying to explain it, and he's like, and the shadow is on top of the moon, and he's like trying to, you can see him doing this mental gymnastics, and nice guy, but he's just like, and it's refracting under. Oh, he's like, he just like made up something on the spot. But I was like, you can't throw the shadow up there. Like it has to be something else. It can't be the globe. There's no way. It's impossible.
Not even just regular lunar eclipses. Not the selenelion is when both sun and moon are above the horizon of the Earth, and that's what causes it to be so impossible. But even just normal lunar eclipses, oftentimes the shadow is not in the place it should be.
Yeah.
Based on the rotation of the sun in the helio model. I remember in 2016, there was some people I knew that they were like, in love with astronomy and that kind of stuff. They had their own telescopes, and they were going to go watch the 2016 lunar eclipse. And I was texting one of them, and I was like, "Hey," because I'd already come into biblical cosmology at that point, and I was looking at it and going, "Oh wow, this is blatantly not where the shading of the moon, the way it was starting to happen, it's not where it should happen, right?"
Yeah.
And so I pointed, I said, "Hey man, did you realize, like, you're watching it right now, right? You got the telescope up?" And he's like, "Yeah, we're all out here on this hill. It's amazing and it's so beautiful." I'm like, "Yeah, I just want you to think about for like the next 20 minutes as you watch this, how it's coming from the wrong angle." He was just like, he was so mad. He didn't want me talking to him anymore. Just just like I'm the jerk that's walking through the hallway just popping kids' balloons. So, but it's noticeable, and everyone can notice it from wherever you are on the Earth. Like there's issues with the lunar eclipses, major issues.
Yeah, and we're not visual. Like most of us, we just look at the lights in the sky. We don't think of how their models work. We just go, "Oh, they told me it's going to happen, and they believe in the globe. It must be a globe thing." But when you put it to the test, it's a firmament. It's a firmament phenomenon. There's no way around it. And so,
And so there's people in the live chat asking, "Well, what even causes the lunar eclipse?" And that's where. Do you have any ideas? What do you think?
Yeah, I've actually been modeling it kind of like Joe Handy over here. I've started doing stuff like that. But you can take a spherical object. I wish I had some with me, but like the shadows, they look flat. When you use a spherical object in front of another sphere, you can do this. Take a lamp and two spherical objects. Watch the shadow. It's like a flat shadow. It never looks like it does on the moon, where the moon kind of looks round. And so I had a little tank of water where I was doing some visuals trying to see, if there's waters above a certain layer and maybe another layer above that. Like, I don't know how the firmament is exactly constructed. I just know there's multiple layers. There's gates that the sun travels through. And those gates could be, the sun's going from this barrier to that barrier, like I know that the sun appears to be further away sometimes than the moon. And so I know that causes the phases. You can model the phases easily, but take a flat surface of water, a spherical object, and a light source, and shine the light source up and above the water and below the water, and it'll eclipse that moon, and it looks exactly like the eclipse when I do it. And that's with the water. I'm sure there's a layer of the firmament possibly that could be causing it, but I don't have the NASA budget.
You mean the water that the firmament is upholding?
Well, if there is like a fluid layer or some sort of, because when you look at the sprites, there's like a fluid property underneath it. I don't know if it's like an energy barrier or below the, I guess, the strong solid firmament that everything's in that you can't get through. It seems to have some fluid properties up there. And I don't know if it's like gases or
Yeah, it would
it's
be the
less dense.
collection of gases at super
Yeah,
cold temperature that
like
turn back to a
hydrogen or
liquid
something,
state.
like
Yeah.
there's a lot of things it could be, but there's like fluid properties up there. And so if you take something fluid that's like water or something that you can kind of bring the light up above and below, it'll cause a shadow. And you don't even need a solid object to cast a shadow. You can, if there's a water bug on the water with its legs spread out and the sunlight shining through, it makes little black circles. Like you can black it out without even using a solid object. But almost when you, even professional photographers, when they're trying to photograph the eclipsed moon that turns red, and when it turns red, they say it's the light refracting around a layer of atmosphere that's as thin as a sheet of paper on a beach ball. So imagine a layer as thin as a sheet of paper on that ball, and the light traveling through and refracting and turning all the different colors that we can predict years in advance. They can say we're going to have a blue moon, we're going to have a red moon years in advance. But the atmospheric lensing nonsense, like it's impossible, and you can't catch a full, like even with professional photographers, a high detailed photo of it, it's always fuzzy. They're like, why does it always look fuzzy? I have adjusted all my settings, my focus is good, my exposure's great. It's always fuzzy because there's something, it's either hindering it, kind of like casting a really thick shadow on it. I don't know, something happens to where when it turns red, you cannot get a clear photo. It looks fuzzy, like there's something on your lens, like it does something different. So it's a unique property that I really don't know if there's anything like it where you can have something like that, because usually you can overexpose your camera, make it take a 30-second photo where it absorbs more light. And I've done that and it's still out of focus. It looks really red and really bright, but yeah, it's unique. So I'm going to try to keep modeling it. And I'm trying to do that for our classes. I want to put those guys to work modeling this stuff out, because what I did with just a flashlight and a tank of water was modeling a lunar eclipse way better than sun god model, because the sun god model can't model their own eclipses with the Selenalian eclipse happening with the shadow on the top of the moon. So at least with the firmament, you can model it and demonstrate it real easily, because it's a barrier. You got two lights. They're opposite sides of the sky when this happens. It's always a full moon. And Enoch says when it's a full moon, they're opposite sides of the firmament when they the moon is getting all of her light. Refers to the moon as a she. And so that's when it happens. So when they're furthest apart, that's when a barrier could pass between them, or part of a barrier.
Okay. Real quick, Josh, we got Legos Z1. Thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate that.
That's Mike.
So grateful for you, brothers. Blessings in Messiah. Your old pal Mike, Flat Earth Archive.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, brother.
See you, Mike. We're just talking about you. A lot of the stuff I'm sharing with that eclipse is all because he came on and gave us a lesson, taught us some stuff. So yeah, really good brother. Flat Earth Archive on Facebook. Go check him out. Really good stuff. Really good, humble, truth-seeking brother. And now another thing with earth science, this is where it gets interesting is too. It's like it only works on the biblical earth. I would think there's no globe excuse for this, and I like those types of proof. When we were talking about flights into Antarctica, I was talking with Dave Weiss the other day, and he's like, man, everybody's losing their minds over this final experiment thing. And it's just sad. It's dark, He goes, man, I was watching them fly in, and he said they were flying in at such a low altitude. I asked them about it, and they said, oh, well, we were looking at the mountains. And so as we're having this conversation, I'm over there on my computer. I looked it up. I was like, how high do planes fly in Antarctica? Just a thought popped into my head. I'm going to look into it. Well, in the Arctic up north, where the firmament might be higher if it's spread out like a tent, planes fly at about 29,000 feet. I looked up in Antarctica, how high do they fly? It's about 10,000 feet.
Yep.
That's much different. That's over 3 miles different.
Yeah.
Like 3.4 miles different in elevation. And I was reading the flight manuals. I was like, I'm going to the flight manuals. I'm not just going to base this on a Google search. I know AI is taking over and messing up stuff. So I'm going to look into it. And all their manuals are telling you the same things. And Google will give you the basic scenario of no airlines currently operate such flights that fly directly over Antarctica. None ever have. When you watch circumnavigation, they always take 4 right turns or 4 left turns every time. They never go straight. It's always in a square or a circle every time. When they get to that South Pole, they're like, all right, we made it there. Turn right. Never straight. And so That's very telling because they can't do it on the biblical Earth model. But I started looking into it. As you read, it says here, as the plane approaches Antarctica, it drops in altitude from 30,000 feet to approximately 17,000 feet. However, due to the drift of the Earth's magnetic pole, the South Magnetic Pole is no longer over the Antarctic continent. It's crazy. Imagine that. And direct flights of McMurdo Station, Scott Base, shall be avoided. Can't fly over it. If necessary, fixed-wing aircraft. Let me make this bigger so I can read. Fixed-wing aircraft overflying McMurdo Station or Scott Base will maintain an altitude of 1,500 feet above ground level.
That's nothing.
Feet. Yeah, you're getting down very, very low, and it gets lower. I mean, it's like I'm trying to find an excuse for the globe here. I'm like, okay, maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's ice crystals in the clouds that'll hurt them. I don't know. But as a general rule, it says aircraft will avoid disturbing concentrations of birds. They don't do that here.
But there aren't concentrations of birds over the South Pole.
Yeah, there's none. Yeah, that's what they told us when they went there. They're like, there's no life here. It's nothing. It's nothing. I didn't see any birds, but they don't want to disturb them. So guess what? They're going to fly approaching within 500 feet.
Birds fly lower to the ground. Like, unless you're talking about, what is it? An eagle and whatever. What else is it? That flies like, can fly up to like 10 miles higher, whatever it is. Yeah. But I can't remember the bird right now. But the average bird, they fly around 1,500 feet if they're even that tall. Like, they don't fly very high.
Yeah, penguins can't fly either though. So like, why are you worried about the birdies when they're not they're not going to be flying? It's really crazy. Now this is where biblical Earth science pays off, because I found this note here. It says, when using an altimeter, something that tells you your altitude, setting of 29.92 in areas of low pressure, actual altitude may be lower than indicated altitude because the lack of reported altimeter settings combined with extremely low pressures over the Antarctic continent might require an adjustment. So extremely low air pressure. And I'm thinking, well, they're kind of higher in elevation, but planes fly way higher than mountains and they never have to adjust for low air pressure. And so I'm thinking, why would they have really low air pressure in Antarctica? And if it is low in Antarctica, is it like that in the north? Is it like that in the Arctic? And so I pulled up an air pressure map of the world. Low air pressure on the bottom, you get your Antarctic area. It gets higher as you go up north. This is because of how air pressure works. Mm-hmm. When you have higher air pressure, there's more air up above your head. That's you right. have more air pressure, more air above your head if your ceiling is higher.
It's almost as if
lower, there's less.
It's almost as if there's a sloped firmament whose ceiling gets smaller and smaller as you get to the outer perimeter of the circle of the earth. Yeah. Ron Boston Bear, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, great conversation, guys. I appreciate all you two do for the kingdom. Praise, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, you too, brother. You too. Keep on running. He's going to be running in Antarctica soon, I believe. If I remember correctly.
Phenomenal. This seems just like a glutton for punishment. But real quick about the birds, it makes me think about like commonly known that birds migrate towards warmer climates during winter times, right?
Yeah.
And they've been given this instinctive, amazing ability to fly incredible distances to do that. So why would birds hang out in Antarctica where it's cold, which is against their natural instinct, as well as there's no seed, there's no worm, there's no tree, there's no leaf, there's nothing for them to snack on or eat to sustain themselves. So why are they flying over this supposed vast area of Antarctica and to be hit by planes? It makes no sense whatsoever.
It's a desert. That's what they say. It's a snowy desert. It's constantly covered in snow. There's no life. I didn't see any birds in their travels. Like I'm gonna start going back now. We need to watch Antarctic footage or have people do that. See if you see any birds flying over Antarctica when they're coming in their flights.
Only Admiral Byrd. And and actually I did see something from like 1956. It was like an old recolorized video of him going down there for the summertime. And he does talk about a 24-hour sun.
I heard that too.
Yeah. And so it's interesting that, but that's the only bird I know that has ever tried to hang out in Antarctica.
Worried about his spirit, Admiral Byrd, still flying high. All the people that died smacking into the firmament, they don't want to. They got little memorials like they have on the side of the road. They got little like flags stuck up where they passed away on the.
Josh, crazy story. Like I didn't finish it, but because I started trying to keep working on my Days of Noah series. But many years ago, I started a book and I got like 5 chapters in. I got the book in my head. I just haven't finished. I'm going to finish it in the future after Days of Noah. But it's called Satellite, and it's a fictional story about researchers in one of the bases in Antarctica, and they have the military is sending people out to supposedly a meteor came down, like 10 clicks away from the base, and so they take out an expedition vehicle and they go to try to see what it is and bring it back to study it. And then when they bring it back and the ice melts off of it inside their hangar bay, and they realize it's not a meteorite, it's actually what seems to be some sort of satellite, but it's filled with Egyptian hieroglyphs all over it.
Oh,
And so then the researchers start trying to like figure out how to turn it on, like why isn't it damaged? Because they clearly saw it falling to the earth. And so then as they start to realize and try to pull the data off of it, they start realizing it's a satellite that's been up there for like 5,000 years. And so they're so it's a storm comes in and traps them there for 3 days before the mainland can come in and confiscate it. And so they got 3 days to figure this out and get as much data out of this. And it leads them through a biblical narrative because they're
oh, that's
watching from a bird's eye view the shifting of cultures and countries. And it's a very interesting concept. But it's called satellite. And of course, they talk about, well, it's been quantumly magnetically locked to the firmament this whole time. That's how it's been up there this whole time. So like
oh, wow.
it suddenly finally came down and they realized that, so I'll be willing in the future, I'll be able to finish that fictional Christian book. And it's also an FE book, basically. Biblical
That's
cosmology.
cool. That's a good way to introduce it right there. I like that.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, it's definitely up there. Planes don't factor in curvature for the ground, but they are obviously factoring in curvature up above them. First time I've ever seen them account for curvature, and air pressure changes as well. I mean, like, this is from today. Like we've already done an air pressure unit, thankfully, and the way the Father lines stuff up, you see stuff and you're like, wait a minute, let me look into that. And air pressure, it's weird because science, it's like when you're teaching stuff in science, it just doesn't make sense a lot of times. You're like, guys, hot air rises. Does everybody got that? Check. Okay. Now, when you go higher into the air, what happens? It gets hotter. Nope, you're stupid. It gets colder. Everything just seems so weird and backwards. And but with air, when you start studying it we have an intelligent designer. He knew how much air his creation was going to need, and air stacks up based on its density. And you hear flat earthers saying buoyancy and density all the time. I didn't realize until I started thinking of it from when our Father made his creation, he knew what they were going to need. He knew they were going to breathe a specific type of air. This air had to be engineered to have a density that it stacks up where we need it. So when you go to the highest of the highest mountains, it's there. When you go to the lowest depths we can go, it's there. It doesn't go much above it. It doesn't go much below it. Once you start getting too low, you start getting weird gases. People start dying. You get like your sulfur hexafluoride that's way down there because it's going to where it settles. Helium, if you put a helium balloon in a vacuum chamber, take the helium balloon, stick it in there, turn the vacuum chamber on. That helium balloon is like you in a swimming pool. It can float as long as it has something that is less dense than to float on. When you take the air out, the helium balloon falls down. It also expands, but it falls straight down. And so helium, the way it is, the reason our balloons only go so high, they go until they get to the top of the swimming pool, the top of our air. Once they get to the top of the air, they peak. And I think the highest they've ever said we've ever sent a balloon, this is funny, 33.33333 miles. Yeah, they had to throw that in there. But that's how many miles high it went. That's as high as it can go.
Wait, doesn't the occult have like other numbers they view as valuable? Why they just wear that one out?
Yeah, they really do. That one in the 666,
Yeah.
they're like, we got to interchange that. But that was, last time I checked anyways, that was the highest balloon that ever sent up. I don't know about satellite balloons, but it seemed like it was that same type of category. And so 33 miles is about where those balloons peak. You can't get much higher. They run out of air. And you can see the buoyancy and density in full swing when you watch this guy here. I think everybody's seen that video where he makes the aluminum boat float on invisible air, sulfur hexafluoride, the stuff that's the opposite of helium. It makes your voice go deeper instead of high pitch. And it's there. That shows you its density. It's stacking up. And that's what's happening with our air. And that's why air pressure is lower when you get to Antarctica, higher when you go up north. On a globe, it should be identical. It's not. It's for a reason. And it's because we live on a biblical earth. Oops, wrong way. Sorry about that. And so just to show you again, helium, this is where, helium floats until it runs out of, that's why balloons don't just keep going into space, right? If helium could get sucked up into space, balloons would go up into space. They don't. They go to as high as they can. They stop floating. But when you look up what happens to helium, it gets released
So wait
into
a minute.
space.
I'm sorry to interrupt your. This is awesome stuff, but I'm just having a thought.
No.
So what if a balloon was part helium and then part hexafluoride gas? Would it
Oh, they
continue
did
to
that.
would it continue to float even higher?
They do that.
Once
You
the
can,
helium loses its buoyancy properties
hmm. Yeah, because
due
the
to the
hexafluoride is like really heavy. And so you got the helium, and I think hydrogen's a little less dense than helium. And so hydrogen balloons it's free air travel. They should be using those anyways. But that they put them together. I'd have to watch it because I was actually just watching a show, King of Random. They were doing sodium, hexafluoride, and helium and seeing what would happen. And I cannot remember. I might have
hmm, probably
got
just
called to do
blew up.
something else. But I'll have to watch that now because now I can't remember what happens when they did it. And so yeah, it's interesting seeing the science of this stuff, and that's why something like sulfur hexafluoride is going to be found deep down in these hydrothermal vents because it's now being brought up, and they can collect it or they can make it in a lab. But your standard air pressure at sea level is about 14.7 psi. To me, that's crazy because my tires have been that low before. Like that's pretty low, but like I'm like that's still air pressure. Like that's amazing that we have 14.7 psi because we're underneath many miles of air pushing down on our heads. The helium goes until it runs out of air and then it stops. But they tell us if it gets sucked up into space. Why? If that's the case, if we can see in a lab that these airs stack up, why is it sucking up helium and avoiding neon gas, oxygen, nitrogen, CO2? It's leaving them alone. It can't be selective. A vacuum chamber can't be selective like the one over here on the right that says, I'm only going to consume helium because I'm allergic to oxygen. Like, that's not how it works. A vacuum chamber, pressurized system, they
Yeah.
don't go hand in hand. We have a closed system because we have a creator who cares about us. He's not going to throw us on a rock spiraling 500,000 miles per hour through an infinite expanding, ever expanding universe. And
And
so,
also just the whole
yeah,
concept of a pressurized system with nitrogen being suppose they tell us nitrogen is, over 78% of what's up there.
yeah,
And oxygen is 21% and the other small percentages of the other noble gases. But it's like if nitrogen isn't affected by the downward pull that's called gravity and it just floats up, then how is there air pressure at all?
yeah,
You know? Because they say, oh well, there's a sorting in the air based off the weight of the molecules. And I'm like, yeah, all the noble gases, 79% of our oxygenated of our atmosphere, 79% of it ignores the downward pull.
yeah,
So like, where's it going? And why isn't it just evaporating off the surface of the earth forever? You
yeah.
know?
Joining helium, like wee. I guess because
Yeah.
helium makes you sound cooler when you inhale it. So space likes helium. It likes to space. If it had a voice, would be high pitched because all it all it inhales is helium. It's the
So
crash in the party with the helium vacuum. And then I just wanted to give this for a visual because our students, they see this. It's like the globe is literally in a vacuum chamber. Now, this one's stationary. This is actually more possible than what they say we live on. It's not moving, but it's in a vacuum chamber covered with gas, covered with water, and stationary this time. Turn that vacuum chamber on. It would be like trying to fill up the tire on the right with air. You would get fired if they said, hey, get that to 14.7 or 1520 psi, whatever. You're going to get fired. You're not going to succeed. Our globe is like that tire. There's no barrier around it to keep air pressure. And so it's that nonsensical to even try to do it, to have that model. And so, yeah, that's just a crash course of like some of the things we've seen on this journey already. And it's only been one semester, and that's just some highlights. The Father has really blessed us with seeing things that prove his creation. And that was our goal at the start. Put it to the test, see what happens. And making a decision not out of fear like you did. When you stepped into ministry full time, I'm sure that was terrifying. You had a son and now you have two sons, you have a baby. Like that can be terrifying. And I know there's a lot of people out there wanting to do more ministry stuff and wanting to be used. And I will warn you, it is a lot of work. And I think a prayer a lot of us have or had was just use me. And I remember saying that from the time I was like 17, just use me. I don't care. And when he does use you, it is work. It's a blessing. It's the most blessed you'll ever be, but it's a lot of work. It's why they're called servants. They earn the title servant. The Messiah, he wasn't going around being lazy. He was a full out servant, doing the things that he did. And so he's blessed this part of our ministry of joining up with other people and doing this. And it's something that wouldn't be possible if he wasn't guiding it and allowing us to do this and leading people to bring them this direction, because that's a big responsibility. When you care about your children, having them grounded in truth and a good solid foundation, even bringing them to like a Christian homeschool co-op is hard, because they're still doing the space. They still have a lot of the Babylonian stuff without knowing it. It's innocent stuff. They still do Christmas. They still do all these different things. And it's like, it's hard. And my wife has to go with our daughter, because she's like, man, they're going to talk about this. They're going to talk about the Trinity. They're going to bring up this. They're going to bring up that. And so she's there to guard and protect. And so I've been blessed that people are like, here's the most precious gift I have. Teach them. Like, to me, that's the greatest honor you could ever have in this life, is for somebody to say, here, I want you to help create a foundation for my children that'll help them and navigate this world of lies without getting lost. Because we forget that these children, as much as we love them, they're going to grow up and they're going to go out into the world. They may not be exposed to the way that we raise them up. They may be exposed to something else. They may even try something else, but we want them to have a solid foundation. And it reminds me of this verse here in Isaiah that came to me one day at work. It's not something I found on my own, like a lot of these things. I'm not finding any of this on my own. I'm praying about, should I do creation standard? Because I'm terrified. Honestly, I'm scared. And I'm praying, Father, should I do, can I do this? Can I teach people? Can I do that? You know, always asking him all these questions. Like, we're just expecting him to just give us these answers right away. And he does. He gave me an answer right away. But it came in the form of another student walking up to me after the bell rang. I'm walking out the door, and as I'm about to walk out the door, a student goes, "Hey, can I get some water?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And he said, "Can I go grab some water?" And I'm thinking, grab some water? Like, that must be the new thing they say when they want water. And I'm like, "Sure, but it'll fall through your hands." And he's like, "Okay." And he's getting up. And as I walk out the door, another student puts a verse in my face. And it's in this chapter 40, where it talks about him having the water in the hollow of his hands, you know. And when I saw that, it brought me to this verse, and it brought me to my knees almost. I'm like, what are the chances of this? And but essentially, this is a comforting verse, comforting his people. Isaiah chapter 40. It says, "Behold, Yahuwah will come with strong hand, and his arm shall rule for him. Behold, his reward is with him, and his work before him. He shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather the lambs with his arms and carry them in his bosom, and shall gently lead those that are with young." And that's what he's doing. He's leading those that are with young. He's leading people in a way that I've never seen. It's powerful. Someone like Sean's little Levi being brought up outside of Babylon in a world that we didn't even know as children. It's powerful. He's raising up some soldiers. I'm telling you, it's something beautiful. And it's been a blessing to be a part of it. And I can't believe it's already past the halfway point. I get emotional thinking about it, because it's special. And these children are something special. And I can't wait to see the end results. I get things like right here. This was from one of my own students. His name is Noah. Shared this the other night. Sent me this in the mail. Star trail photos where they're going out. They're not just going out and studying the stars like the world tells them. They're going out and looking up, knowing what's up there, praying to the Most High. And that's what we're trying to encourage with this, is not to just let it be a knowledge situation where we're gaining all this knowledge. Yes, we're gaining loads of knowledge, but we're getting closer to our Father, the one who created this place, the one who sent his Son, the one who's coming back. Those heavens are going to part like a scroll real soon. And we're trying to prepare them for that. And they're going to be seeing all the stuff that's out there, the nonsense, the lies, the so-called final experiments. And I just want to say that if any pastor or anybody who claims to be a pastor ever says, "I'm going to go make one observation and I'm going to let that stand out as truth in spite of what the word actually says," that person is a liar, and they're friends with the father of lies, and they may not even know it. So you got to turn away from that type of teaching and that type of leader. They should not be in front of a congregation at any point. And so they're false witnesses. Even if they think that lying is a different type of sin, then it's not. It's different than bearing false witness. You know, it's if you're witnessing a version of creation that goes against the Father's provable truth of creation, you're a false witness against Spirit-inspired prophets. And I think that's worse than lying against your neighbor. And so again, we're blessed, beyond blessed, to be doing this. And I thank you, Sean, for letting us come on to talk about some of these mind-blowing things that I've been wanting to share with people, but it's like I haven't had the time. And when you invited me on, I was like, good, now I could finally share a few things with everybody that we've been finding and seeing, and it's been revealed to us. And a lot of stuff I'm learning is from the people he sent my direction, this way. And it's been fun. And I look forward to next year. We're probably going to start in September and register being in August instead of starting in August like we did last time, because my secretary is going to be having a baby. Sounds bad, like I'm having an affair. My hot secretary is going to be having a baby in July, most likely July, we think July 10th, somewhere around there. And so, yeah, the wife now having child number 6. This is scary for me because when I say secretary, she was an administrator, really. On paper, it said secretary, but now she's the heartbeat of the whole registration and giving people information. And once she learned how everything worked and she was good to go, I haven't really had to focus on that. So I can just focus on making lessons. And so she'll be having a little baby. And so hopefully by the end of August, things will be better to where she can help me out a little bit. But then again, I would like for her not to. I'd like for me to be able to do it. So I got to come up with a good system for registering that's just easy. And so I'll be working on that, and hopefully we'll have a better way.
Does your website, creationstandard.com, does it have a way to register for people?
On creationstandard.com, there is a registration, and it'll pull up a registration form. You can register, and people can still join. Now, this late, they may want to wait until first semester in September, but if they want to join, they still have access to previous assignments. It's just harder to get caught up, and I don't want them to feel like they're way behind, because we start out building a foundation from the Genesis 1, and then we work from there. And so if they've already sort of got that foundation, they can come in. But I highly recommend the experience going through and bonding with the other classmates. You get to where after a while, you start having the same students in the same classes, and people figure out where they want to go and which class works best. And then you start knowing their names in each class, their personalities, and it's fun. We have a blast. We it's something that is worth doing all the way through, because you'll get all those live interactions and lectures and lessons and hang out with each other. It's fun. Kids love it, and the adults love it too.
That's awesome, brother. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard or not, but I'm about to go through the same thing that you're going through, and we're starting our own course curriculum for learning the Bible, basically. So we have what's called the basic course. It starts February 3rd, and it's going to take them through 19 different topics, 32 different classes. So from February to May. And so it's going to be twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so I'll talk to you more about it after the show. I want to give you a gift for you and your family. But at the same time, you brought up Artemis, and that's actually some of the stuff I'm going to be talking about in an upcoming 42 series installment. Did you ever see my Investigating Babylon series?
Yeah, and I got the crash course. I got the crash course version in at the Flattoberfest. There you go.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's right, because you were there with your dad as well, and it's good meeting your dad and having dinner with him. And then so this is where this is just a teaser, but in part 20, I talk about the Paradise Stone, this is Mecca. This is a picture of Mecca. Where it's actually sped up a little bit, but it's, where they go and dance around it and everything. So once a year, all Muslims, they'll go to Mecca in Saudi Arabia, and they dance around the macabre and this big black box. And at the corner of this big black box is something called the Paradise Stone. And the history, I don't know if you remember this or not from the series, but the history of that is what that verse you read from Acts 19.
Really?
So it was the history of it. They believe that the Paradise Stone is what fell from heaven. And it goes back to the attributed to be Artemis, the image of Artemis that fell from heaven. They think it's a piece of that image that fell from heaven.
Yeah.
So it's just a black stone. They go up to it and they pray to it and they touch it and they think it's going to help their prayers, and they call it the Paradise Stone because it fell from heaven.
That's crazy. So they still somewhat believe in the firmament.
No, I'm pretty sure Islam teaches that there's a firmament, but it's just funny that even in the ancient world, you had all the ancient religions talked about a firmament. They just believed that the gods that they worship live in the sky below the firmament.
Yeah.
So this is where they would talk about the other celestial gods who lived above the firmament, like in the ancient Egyptian lore. Ra, one of the writings about him, he said that Ra. This is of course Ra's claim. Obviously, this is we don't think this is true, but this is what Ra claimed, and what would be taught in Egyptian theology was that Ra had actually um, evolved, is maybe a current word I can use. Basically,
Yeah.
he'd become more powerful and more better than the gods above Nut. Nut was the Egyptian word for the firmament. It was a female personification of the firmament of a water god that
Yeah.
stretched over
Oh,
covered
yeah.
the
Yeah.
earth.
I get your that.
And so he said that he actually, ascended into greater power during his lifetime than the gods above the firmament that created him.
Wow.
So they acknowledged there was a covering over the earth in all these ancient religions outside of Israel, but the gods that they worship lived in the sky below the firmament, but above the ground. And so this is where it's fascinating, because that they just basically they would include the firmament into their lore, into their descriptions of theology, but they just bypassed it with, well, our gods that we worshipped live, like in examples of Ra's boat of a million years, where he declares that his home was literally attached to the back of Newt's, the
Wow.
back of the firmament. And so this is where that's why he got away from mankind and went to live in the sky. So this is where it's just fascinating that they acknowledge these things. So the Bible just doesn't stop at the firmament; it explains the heavens also, where the Most
Yeah.
High is, right? The angels above and servants of righteousness, and how all that's going to be used at the second coming of the Messiah in order to establish peace on the earth, and to destroy false gods like Ra and Zeus and all those kinds of guys. So it's just fascinating. Artemis was the female personification of Isis and Hathor in the Egyptian pantheons.
Ooh.
So Isis and Hathor was a female goddess personified of the wisdom and the home of Ra. And so this is why that paradise stone is considered a chunk of it that had fallen from heaven from the original image of Artemis.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a lot to it, but yeah, I know that getting the crash course in the Investigating Babylon series is probably disadvantageous to the average person, if like yourself, because you like all the details. And so that's why I spent like 21 episodes meticulously going through all the details. And then the 42 series, we dig a little deeper. And I'm going to be talking about Artemis even deeper. You kind of stole my thunder on a few things, which is fine. I love it. It's fine.
Sorry.
But we'll be talking about Artemis as well in an upcoming
Yeah.
42 episode. So, because it does relate to wormwood. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I did not know
Revelation 8.
that. I didn't know that until a few weeks ago. So you know all this stuff probably, and you're like, wow.
No, it's good stuff, man. It's really more people need to talk about it, spread the word, get people looking at it, researching the scriptures with new eyes, taking things, not just trying to allegorize and make everything a metaphor, but take it for what it says and research the names of the words, and just really try to dig in and be students of the scriptures, because like you're finding, there's a ton of parallels that makes life relevant, makes life fun. It's like we get to truly learn about God's invisible qualities and unseen nature from what was made. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and not everybody knows how to do the context things that you do, and that you get used to doing it and studying the word that way. But somebody like me, I'm studying stuff out, like Enoch, and I could see how you do like the color coded context in there. Like I'm color coding and not that not in an organized way like that, but like when I do my stuff, I have to highlight things different colors and like lay it out. So like that really keeps everything. I'm sure your word studies like that and teaching people how to do stuff like that, it's going to be powerful.
Yeah, hopefully people are enjoying it. Hopefully they're understanding the approach they took with that, because it's a very specific approach. It's not like your traditional, we're going to stop and do commentary here, and here's the definitions of all these words, and and that kind of, here's a cross reference where all those words are used. I tried to actually do specific commentary based on the themes, like you said, and then I cross reference the verses based on relevant context, not just another verse that has the same word in it, right? So that's where, like, if you go to Bible Gateway, Bible Hub, other online free resources, many times it'll just cross-reference all these wonderful other verses, but it's just because it's using the same words in the verse that you're looking at. So it doesn't mean the context has anything to do with what you're reading, So I try to make it more contextual. Hopefully people get a better, quicker understanding of what's happening. But it's a beautiful thing, brother. All right, so is there like a cutoff time for people to sign up for your creation standard?
No, there's no cutoff. It's just the later you get, the more you might want to consider starting next year. And the thing about that too, it'll help us out because we're going to need numbers. The more you have, the better you are at doing it. The more, the more registrations you have, the more numbers, because that's how we're making a living right now. And a lot of the people, right, we have a lot of people. It's like regular school. We offer low income, free or reduced prices for people who are struggling. And there's been people that have started and said, right now, we just moved, we lost our jobs, but we want to do this. Okay.
I hit the wrong button, guys. I'm so sorry. Josh, jump back in the studio. Jump back in the studio, brother. Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
Oh no, the controllers are back.
Sorry about that. Start back over.
Okay.
You were talking about free and reduced courses.
Yeah, we have a lot of those. So it helps, the more you have, the more of a cushion you have, or, the more donors you have, the more you can offer it to people who are struggling or need, $5 a month instead of 30, because it's only $1 a day per family per course. So it's not a lot. We're not charging really a whole lot. So our goal is for growth so that we can offer it and keep the prices low and have donors as well that help take care of the needs for people who are needing help. And there's a lot of people that are like, we would need to do it for free. If we were to do it right now, I'd be like, hey, I'm gonna need that for free for now. And there's been people that they're honest. That's the good thing about these believers. They'll say, hey, I don't have it right now, but when I do, I'll pay. And so then they're like, I got a job, here's a payment. So it's an honor system, and my wife's been on top of it and trying to help make sure everybody gets their payments and stuff, and I don't have to worry about that. I haven't worried about money or looked at a bank account information like on my own will and like logged in and done that since like 2008. And so she's my financial person and trustworthy. It's good. I could not replace her. That's why I'm like nervous about her having a baby. Like, I can't go and hire somebody that's going to do what she does. They'd have to come out of Harvard. And even then they'll be like, I don't understand all this. Like, she's got color-coded spreadsheets, and
That's awesome.
She's like the CEO of this corporation. I'm just a teacher.
That's awesome, brother. It's great to have a blessing like that.
Yeah.
That's great.
You know what I mean. You got Lindsay.
Do. 100% do. Yeah. She runs her household like an expert. I love it.
No.
Yeah, it's better than trying to hire one of those like fake AI assistants,
Yeah.
You get the real thing, and she actually loves you too. Gives you babies. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So when's your next when's the due date for the little one?
July 10th is the due date, and we're going to find out in a week or so, maybe even this Thursday. I'm trying to remember. I'm bad about dates, but soon we're going to find out if it's a boy or a girl. I have no clue right now. So as about almost 16 weeks along, that's where we usually find out. So I'm excited, so I can stop saying it.
That'll be your 6th child, is that right?
Number 6, yeah, halfway through the tribes. We just got to have 6 more.
I was about to say, man,
we got to tough it out.
You're so young. You can still just be popping out your own children of Israel all the way into your 60s. Be great.
Yeah, I'm the youngest twin, so I have to have 12, kind of like Jacob.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, brother, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to share before we end the show?
No, thanks for having me on, brother. I know you have to endure a lot, and the more you put yourself out there, the bigger you grow. The more people you have that love you, the more people you have that hate you, and it's the same with the prophets before us. They had people that loved them and would die for them, and then they had the people that wanted to kill them. And you handle that really well. I don't know. It's hard when you are doing everything with a pure heart and a pure purpose and trying to bring people to the Creator and His understandings or how everything works. And good job for persevering through all of it and offering these classes. This is a good thing, guys. Like, people, you have no clue. Take part in that program. The Bible classes, learning how to do things a way that will give clarity. The Holy Spirit is a big tool, but it helps to have somebody that has done this for years, and somebody like Sean, who's really good with the context, has some things they can share. That'll be a blessing. I can only imagine.
Yeah, that Enoch study guide that you keep pulling up and referencing, the color-coded themes of context, that's actually some of the core topics we're going to be addressing with our Bible courses. Is that, like, first week is going to be how we formed our Bibles. So it's going to be a historical class for 6 hours for the first week. The second week, though, we jump right into the themes. So it goes gospel to kingdom, and then we start going into the resurrection, the covenants, all that kind of stuff. So each week we'll tackle so it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully people get a better understanding of how I quickly navigate through scripture, because I look for the themes. What's it talking about? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? As opposed to just trying to memorize the
Yeah.
the L dads, the me dads, and the Ohalibamas, and all the different names. I was
Yeah.
just like, okay, this is genealogy. Okay, this is based on covenant. Okay, cool. Now we go over here to Exodus. What's this talking about? Oh, this is covenant. This is commandment keeping. This is Babylon against Yahweh. Like it's easy to like remember huge portions of the Bible and its context if you remember the themes that they're talking about. So that's so hopefully this class will be exciting for folks. We'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll have another show and towards the summer, and we'll review, talk about
Yeah.
it.
Well, let me
But
know if you want to come on and advertise it on our, because we have a lot of like people that are really hungry for the word that may not have crossed over and found you yet. It seems like we share a lot of the same core people, but it,
well, I don't know. I would like to do that. I have to think about it because
yeah.
I'm still processing all of our registrations. So
Mhm.
I don't know exactly how I'm going to manage the size.
Too much.
Right. So like right
Yeah,
now we've got 128 people that's registered.
that's a good
So
number. That's a lot.
yeah, I don't know if I think you can, like Discord. I think you can have up to 300 people in a specific room where
Yeah.
they're all watching and interacting. But I think with
Oh yeah.
Zoom, you can do more with Zoom, or you can do less with Zoom, or more. I can't remember the Zoom options, but the point
Yeah.
is, I want to make sure the technology can
Well,
facilitate
yeah,
everyone.
that's what I was worried about when I started Creation Standard, because I thought, man, orientation, we're gonna have that number there show up in one class, and Zoom's gonna blow up or something. But I guess with the way we did our time slots, it just fell into place. It was like some came to this one. If you have a 9 o'clock and an 11 o'clock, it's like they just seem to spread out divinely. It was power. It was like, wow, I did not think this was gonna happen. I thought we were gonna have an overload here, and you will have your groups if you have multiple segments in a day. I don't know how you're going to run it, but that would be
Yeah, if I'm going to try to continue to put out the content and do the debates and finish the 42 series and everything else I'm trying to do, we're just having from 6 to 9, or the time zones, Tuesday and Thursdays,
yeah,
from 6 to 9 is a class, and so it's going to be. And then if people can't make those, they can still have replay access
yeah,
to watch them afterwards. But if they want to participate, they'll have to be there at that time. But and this is the first time ever doing this, so we'll see exactly, like we did some 6-week courses many years ago in 2019, and that was cool because we talked about, one was about prophecy, one was about Enoch, another one was about the gospel of the kingdom, and but there was like 10 or 12 people that showed up to that. It's a totally different game, right?
yeah,
So this is going to be a little different. I'm going to see how things go, and I'm actually offering for folks a final, both a written and an oral final at the end, where I can literally sit and talk with them and gauge their comprehension
yeah.
after the class is
Oh,
over.
that's cool.
So that's going to take time, as you can
Yeah.
imagine,
Oh, yeah.
scheduling with everybody to get those accomplished. So we'll see how this first semester goes, and it may be a good format. We may have to change it. We'll see, but it's fascinating that there are a lot of people hungry for concise, consolidated, non-seminary style. Like, we're not going to pump a whole bunch of church fathers at you and tell you got to believe all this philosophy and tell you this is what you got to believe what the RCC teaches on this thought, or you're not going to be, I'm not going to ask anyone to learn and believe what Augustine taught, which is nonsense. So yeah, we stick to the scriptures as much as possible, keep it simple, and you walk away knowing your Bible. Because Josh, think about it. Christ, like, without getting into the argument of did Christ ministry last 1 year or 3 years, let's not go there for now, but just think about how quickly he taught his boys what he felt they needed to know before he sent them out to the towns of Samaria in Luke 9 and Matthew 10. Like, he was like, okay, you're ready. I'm going to send you out now. You know what I'm saying? And they went out, talked about the good news, gospel of the kingdom, and accompanied by miracles as they went. And think about, like, in modernity, some churches, they're like, oh, we can never know the Bible. Like, it's a
Yeah.
lifelong pursuit. You can never understand. Like, there's some things that you'll never understand. It's just a mystery. And I'm sitting there going, that's not what the Bible declares. The Bible says, like, God gave you his words so that you can know them, apply them to you grow in the knowledge of God, so that you become studied and approved, mature and complete, not lacking anything. The idea is that you can know the Bible. It's not impossible. You just have to stop trying to reinterpret it every time you turn the page. You just got to take the words for what they say, keep it in context, look up the definitions, and lo and behold, it's a coherent story that blesses your life, because God didn't give you a riddle.
Yeah.
He gave you something for you to be blessed by studying, learning, and knowing it. So like that's our motivational ideal, is like,
Yeah.
you can know the Bible and it doesn't take very long. I'm going to help 6 months to a year. I promise you, you can know the Bible. It's not that hard. So
Wow.
that's our goal. And
Well, I
then of
tell you,
course,
I can vouch for you. When I started watching your stuff, I learned more in 6 months than I did like many years of trying to figure it out. Like I never even thought, there's questions I didn't think to ask, like, what is the gospel of the kingdom? Like
yeah.
foundational stuff. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you had me questioning things to a different level. So I think this will be powerful.
Yeah, think about how much
Yeah.
time you see people arguing about stuff like the Trinity. And all that time could be spent actually learning the other parts of the Bible and everything it's teaching you, and what
Yeah.
Christ's message was, which was the gospel of the kingdom, and which is going to lead into biblical cosmology, which is going to lead into
Yeah.
having to understand the covenants and why things happen when they do, and so like it's all connected, and I think the devil just wants to get us fighting in specific topics and being hyper zealous about certain things, and so we miss the bigger picture.
Yeah.
So I fully believe that it's not impossible to learn the Bible, and that it doesn't have to take you a lifetime. You can literally know it in less than a year. You can have a working knowledge of the Bible in less than a year and walk around and be competent. I'm not saying you're going to be citing it or
Yeah.
memorizing verbatim, but you're going to know where things are, and you're going to know the overall story and how everything plays together, and it's not confusing. It's
Yeah.
not. So yeah, that's our heart. And I love your heart for this, brother, as well. I would hope in the future, as you continue to expand on what you're doing, I would love for there to be a way where we could like integrate these concepts in the future to this, to like take the practical science of what you're showing with the other concepts. Cause I actually want to take your courses next time around too.
Yeah.
But with my family, I just didn't have time this year. So, and then I just would love for there to be a way. I would also love, like, I'm not saying that, like, I'm not saying I would want people to have to go to your courses and go to my courses at the same time. I just, maybe in the future we could figure out a way to create some sort of hub where people could go to and they could like access
Yeah.
different modules for your courses or stuff. And I would love for other people that are competent in our audiences to come along, like GeoTruth. Give us an astronomy course.
Yeah.
Give us an advanced course on how you're plotting things and with the calendar, and like make it, there's all these other competent, incredibly gifted people in our audiences that could also come along and create a type of curriculum that could, this could be something amazing that people,
Yeah.
and they don't have to pay $100,000 to go to some university to learn it, what I mean, and pay for parking and all
Yeah.
that nonsense. Like they could just very simply log on to some sort of site where they can access all this, and pay piecemeal to access the information and take the tests.
Yeah.
It's just a future dream, I suppose. But
Yeah, it's a good one, and I know I spent tens of thousands of dollars on an education, 5 years in college, and did not even get to use that
yeah,
degree, and was
yeah,
it paying on it for years and years and years. Fortunately, I got loan forgiveness a few years ago, but yep, and I didn't do anything with it. I had to go back and get a master's degree to get certified to teach, which was why I went to college in the first place, of course, to compete and wrestle in college, but was the main goal at first. But yeah, the original goal was like, I'm gonna be a teacher, and then it's like, just sociology. So yeah, from somebody who's wasted time and money on something that didn't get me anywhere, this is stuff that'll get you somewhere. It's powerful.
yeah. I would love to see something, some sort of you know curriculum compilation where other people in the community step up and like you work in HVACs, okay, create a course on it. Everyone
Yeah.
needs to know stuff, like that.
Yeah. Oh
You're
yeah.
you're you're a plumber, you're an electrician, create a course on it. Everyone needs to know stuff like that. Common, you can rebuild engines. That's extremely valuable information. Create a course on it. Give people the basics at least. Like there's all kinds of stuff. Gardening, are you a proficient gardener?
Yeah.
Create a course on it. You know what I mean? Like, come on, let's give some practical real world skill sets that we could, in addition to stuff that's evidence of the creator and how it all works together, as well as the words given to us through the prophets. I think that's all important stuff. So it's just a Yeah, I know I'm rambling, but it's just kind of putting it out there. Anyone wants to run with any of that stuff, come on now.
Yeah,
This is where we step up.
That's
Let's
what we're
as a
doing.
community.
Yeah, we're
Let's
creating it as we go.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. No way but Yahweh. He says, thank you for the super chat, brother. He says, brother or sister, saying you two are doing some of the most important work of our time. Thank you guys for everything you do. May Yahweh continue to use you both mightily. Awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you,
yeah.
brother. All right. Well, I guess that's all we have for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, go subscribe to Founded Earth Brothers. You have to type that in the YouTube bar. If you type in FEB, it doesn't always come up. So type in Founded Earth Brothers in the YouTube search bar and go subscribe to them if you haven't already, as well as go subscribe to Kingdom and Context on Rumble if you haven't subscribed to us on there already. We're live streaming the same thing over there tonight. And we're trying to bust 2,000 subscribers on Rumble. So help us do that. As well as if you are interested in our basic courses that are coming up on February 3rd, be sure to go to kingdomandcontext.com. It's in the video description below, kingdomandcontext.com, and you can actually register on our website. You also can, put that in your favorites as far as websites go. And did you know we have a new website, Josh? kingdomandcontext.com?
No, I didn't.
Yeah. So yeah, you can. It has our brother did amazing job who helped us with it, and you can actually see some of our latest videos as well as popular videos. You can see there's a whole separate tab that you can go to register for the courses and get all the information about the courses. And so yeah, this first one is just going to be a basic course in February through May, but then later in the fall I'm going to do an advanced course. And so that one's going to get into more apologetics and different things that you see me do during debates and other discussions and stuff like that. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's cool.
A lot of fun. Well, bless you, brother. Really appreciate you coming on tonight. And I'm ecstatic to see God using you to bless you for stepping out in faith. And I think that you guys are on your way to something incredible. I would not be surprised. And in 3 or 4 years, you're going to have people from every state in the union participating. You know what I'm saying? By the hundreds. You know what I'm saying? Like you just have, it's just really going to blow up because I think what you're doing is timely and it's valuable. So appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks. Same to you, brother. Same to you. I believe the same way.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll see you guys next time.
Got 2 flavors. I think today I'm going to go with this one. Here it's just not going to stop. So whatever. This one helps with restlessness, nervous disorders, asthma, digestion, high blood pressure, insomnia, pain, GI discomfort. I'm so excited. It is for inflammation, anxiety, high blood sugar. Actually, I'm going to do this one instead. Anxiety. They were also super kind enough to send me 100% raw Cheyenne honey. Okay. Disco bottle of tea. Let's let her simmer. So cute, because this one says our tree of life blend, and this one's our relaxing Sabbath rest blend. It's all godly. Prayer for healing for me, please, in my ear, and this bird to please be quiet. They were not playing. No joke, this is actually really good. I'm shocked, and I don't even like tea. This is literally blessed by Yeshua. Can I get an amen, sweet Pete?